Welcome back to Are We the Only Ones? This is Kathy.
Hi, I'm Ray.
And we are going to talk about women's healthcare and other healthcare related topics, international healthcare.
Yeah. Women's healthcare, I feel like it's a giant umbrella for a ton of subtopics.
Well, I mean, I have a very intimate understanding of women's healthcare because my first pregnancy resulted at 28 weeks as a stillbirth. And my third pregnancy was trisomy 13, which is the worst of the trisomy conditions. And that resulted in a DNC. And so I know kind of both ends of maternity care in terms of without the IVF process. So I don't know that much about IVF personally.
Yeah.
But in terms of having the hospital care and things like that, and loss and recovery, support, community, things like that.
Community.
Yeah, finding women's community. That was also.
I think it's kind of sad that you can only build that community when something bad happens. Like pregnancy itself is already so hard and difficult and draining. It would be nice to build a community with like other people that are pregnant around the same time, so you can bitch together.
Yeah.
About how awful it is.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's so hard to come by. I feel like in hospitals, right, they refer you to like groups when you're grieving, which they should.
I found an online community.
You found an online community?
It was the pregnant. There was like the go-to when you become pregnant, and like all of a sudden you get emails about like this particular website, that website, and then you could put in your date, and it would put you automatically into a group, and you would know like it's a huge group of people that would do it at the same time. I can't remember now, but it was like.
I wasn't a part of that.
And then, so when you're talking about finding a group, that's how I found a group.
I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, oh yeah, your hospital connected you with this group.
No, it was just online. Like I just jumped online. This was separate than the morning. This was just like when you're new, so when I got pregnant the first time, I'd been married for 13 years. Yeah. So for me, it was such a foreign concept, like the whole thing. Like I used to think like you would clean your newborn with like hand sanitizer. Like I did not understand, like I was so like not so I was like, okay, let me get online and like learn, right? That was my village kind of thing, right? In the beginning.
Okay.
So when you're in the morning, they had a separate area that was like almost like a secure kind of like quieter, that like if you had lost, it automatically would tell you we have also a community of moms that have experienced loss. So you had like gestational periods, and when you lose it in your first trimester or second trimester or later or third trimester only. And you would realize that even though you're not comparing suffering, it is different. Only because I know now, like my first one was third trimester, so like I carried him, had a name, had I think a crib, but I had always been mindful to not do a nursery completely in case. Like somehow I was always sort of, for some reason, like mindful that I could not, if something, God forbid, happened, had to take that stuff all down. So I was always sort of like, I might order stuff, but I don't
kind of like know something on a sixth sense, you think? Or
I mean, maybe inherently, maybe. Because I don't know why I always sort of like felt that way. But I've heard like some cultures are like that as well. And so when that happened, and then I experienced like that pregnancy, we were super, like my husband just graduated law school. I had just finished filming a reality show about fashion. And I was literally like learning how to work in retail at like a large level. So I had decided to work for a flagship in New York City for Uniqlo to learn like how to run a massive international retail location. Because before that, I'd only done like couture, celebrity, red carpet, which is a much smaller type of like animal for fashion. So my brain was all about that. And then when I got pregnant, I was like, oh my God, I have to get like a regular job. I can't like just have a clothing line. I need to like go design. So it was like the weight of having to find a job, the weight of being a new mom, the weight of being in a city now in New York City as opposed to being in like a suburb, not being near family. And then healthcare, because we're in a pocket of time where like we did not have like a job, we were not employed. Then we were in New York State. If your mother, your baby and your mother, and the mother of the baby are covered completely by the state for healthcare.
Okay.
And the baby for 1 year, yeah. So up until the baby's 1 year old as well after birth.
What about post?
Yes. So like
for you, for the mom.
Post like maternity care.
Yeah.
And anything that like would, I think, count for the baby, like in support of the baby.
Okay.
And so I had heard that was a Hillary Clinton law, but I'm not sure if that was like exactly true, but it was around, it would make sense. It would make sense, like who was advocating at that time for those things. Like I was surprised that there was something like that, because I remember being freaked out trying to find insurance, calling like my parents, calling my family, like who can help me, and everybody was just like, we're in a bind right now. It's like not a good time.
Yeah, because you can't just go to the doctor and pay out of pocket. That's so expensive.
Yeah, so it was kind of like it was like, thank God that the government actually had this program in the state of New York.
Yeah.
That would then like relieve me of having to worry about this. But now I'm like bound to whatever. I'm like, no beggars can be choosers. I'm gonna take whatever they're gonna give me. I'm not gonna like complain about it. I'm just gonna be grateful, right? But this began the journey of finding out like what the different levels of healthcare are for, let's say, if you're on the Medicare or Medicaid level. I remember getting WIC, which is like the food kind of like allowance. It was $139 a month to pay, and that was like more than usual because I was pregnant.
Yeah. And
I remember thinking like, what, you expect pregnant women to like eat off $139, and they're like, that's crazy. But I was like, okay. And so I like learned that process and understood that like within a few months, I think it was October, and then my husband's job was going to start in January, that we were going to be able to like have money, we're going to be totally fine. And we're going to be like on the higher income bracket. So this would be like a good learning lesson to like really sit and like remember this time, remember to be grateful, and then maybe learn from this experience, see like how you can advocate for people. Like, should people have to jump through these types of hoops to get the money? That's not even that much money. So we're not really actually spending that much money. Even if people were like fraudulently taking $139 a month, it's not that much money. Do you know what I'm saying? For like, if you're helping how many mothers and babies. Like I had to get on the bus fully, very pregnant, get on the bus in the winter in New York City to go to the DMV, to then go to the Social Security office, to then go and then get bank statements, and then go back to like the welfare offices, and then go all these things to show all this documentation, to show like my banks, to show, because I was not stealing, I didn't have money coming in, I wasn't like all the different ways that they check it. But you're pregnant and you're in the city and you got to take the bus, and it's like 3 hours, 2 hours, all these different things. Like it was a lot. And so that was like a lesson for me to understand, like, wow, they really.
Did people let you sit on the bus when it was full?
Sometimes, but sometimes people are like trying to like. Usually, women will get up for other women.
Other pregnant women.
Yeah. But men are like not trying to do everything to not make eye contact with you.
They don't have to make eye contact with you. They could literally just get up and just be like, hey, here's your seat.
No, but that's just how I actually have posts about this on Facebook all the time. Like I'm trying to remember, like I've counted of 10 times that people offered their seat to me while I'm pregnant. It was like 8 of them were women.
Oh, no.
And 2 were men. And so whenever I see a pregnant woman get offered a seat by a man, I'm like, you better take that seat. Like, that guy stood up, you better take that seat. Like, no, it's okay. Girl, you better sit down. I'm like, like, there's something you need to also reciprocate by taking.
Right. I'm just saying that I don't expect, like, men specifically to stand up for women to sit down that are pregnant, but it's just like, why are more women than men offering?
Well, not only that, and if it was a man, a lot of times it was a foreign visitor. And I'd be like, of course you're foreign, of course you're Italian, of course you're French, of course you're English. And they'd be like, looking around like, I seriously know what you like. Like, literally, they were like perplexed, like, oh, okay. Like, I guess that's not the culture here. Like, they were like really tripping out. And so that was something that I noticed, like, I as much as I'm a feminist and like all this, you do want a certain gentlemanly behavior.
I'm not even looking at it like in that. I'm just thinking of like,
etiquette.
Women are so empathetic to other people that they will get up and share their seat, but men are just like, oh, fuck it, I don't care.
Maybe that's why men had to be taught that, like, gentlemen's rules are to be a gentleman.
Be
Gentleman's agreement. Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to be told. Like, you have to be told how to be. Or we just are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like now there's like a war on women's healthcare, so we are closer to, I don't know, Handmaid's Tale than not.
Yeah, I know. I just started reading that. I know you're watching it. I'm reading it on my Kindle. I didn't purchase it through the Kindle app because I am not supporting Amazon, but I am renting it through the library, reading it on my Kindle. And it is one of those books where it just has these quotes, and I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, it resonates with me.
Like what? Do you have one?
I wouldn't be able to tell you one.
Oh, right now. Sorry. Okay.
Okay. But I'm thinking, I'm like, I need to buy a physical copy of this book so I have it and I can like highlight it and refer back to it because it's just, I don't know, a little eerie. It just feels so eerie.
Well, now for me it was more eerie because Canada is like legit. Like we're legit right now looking to Canada because the Prime Minister just won. That ran on anti-Trump campaign.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my gosh. So now when I'm watching The Handmaid's Tale and they're all going to, everybody goes to Canada.
Yes.
They go to Canada as their asylum country, the country that's like that has their with like their normal. And then we're out, when you first watch Handmaid's Tale in the beginning when it first came out to like the mainstream.
Yeah.
That was like such a weird concept. Like, okay, we have to go to Canada. Like, now we're like,
oh shit.
and it hasn't been that long. You can literally, from the beginning of season 1, whenever that year, if you look at Hulu, whatever that year is to now, that's literally how long it took. And you're just like, how quick, you can see how quickly.
Yeah.
Are you going to watch the show or no?
I don't know. I think I am too empathetic to watch stuff like that.
Oh, it's going to affect you.
Yeah. Because, like, I will start crying and freaking out. Because I'm from Ohio, where the 10-year-old had to go to another state to get an abortion because she was a rape victim.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm from a place where, like, there's
That's
a
like so
whole
real there,
underground network of helping women raise money so they can go get healthcare out of the state, So for me, I think it would be so triggering.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh God, I don't know if I can handle like actually visualizing it, hearing it. Reading it is one thing, and I'm just like, yeah, that's happening right now.
Is the governor of Ohio a Republican or a Democrat?
Yeah, DeWine.
Is it male or
man?
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a Democratic governor?
We have.
Okay,
but it was been a while ago though.
Okay. Oh, so you're not really purple.
It's been a while. But then everybody always cuts education and then it becomes more red. So. But that's a different topic for a different day. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about with healthcare, with billing. Remember?
Oh yeah.
Maybe we were going to touch upon that.
Yes. Okay. Let's talk about billing and
yeah,
talking down your bill, negotiating down your bill.
Negotiating down your bill.
bill.
I think it's something that everybody should be aware of. So a little backstory: when I had my first pregnancy, I was really young, so I was still on both of my parents' insurance, and I had to be put on medical bed rest in the hospital for a few weeks. And so after that, plus my delivery, after all was said and done with both insurances, my like outstanding balance that was due was $50,000. It was like around 50,000.
Yeah.
A little bit more. And of course, like I was freaking out because when you get a $50,000 bill, like you're thinking, how the fuck is anybody supposed to pay that? So nobody told me, but as I was reading over everything front to back, it tells you that you can call in. There's a number, and they're like, yeah, low income, whatever. It's kind of like really tiny and not noticeable.
Oh, I think it's like if you were having financial difficulties.
Financial hardship.
Call this number.
Yeah. So I was like, oh hell yeah, I'm gonna call. So I called.
That's the fine print.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter if you're experiencing financial hardship. Like at that point, technically, I wasn't, right? I was living comfortably at home.
No, but this bill is going to cause financial hardship.
Yeah,
so therefore, yeah.
That was a hardship for sure.
Yeah.
So I call and I tell the person, I'm like, hey, I just got this bill. I want to make sure that this is correct. So I had them like go through the bill with me and check and audit stuff. And that took a while. And it wasn't like right away. But eventually I got a lady and I was like telling her like, hey, I'm a part-time employee at Panera. I'm a full-time college student. And yes, I had a baby. Yeah, and it was irresponsible. I get it. But still, how the fuck am I supposed to pay $50,000 medical bill? And she was like, oh, don't worry. She was the sweetest woman. She was like, don't worry. Like, we have like a sliding scale. We'll be able to help you out. And then she just had me follow the steps. And of course, I have to process everything, check everything. You have to mail in payment, your pay stubs and stuff. But yeah, after that, my bill went from like around 50,000 to it was like a little less than like 12,000. So made a huge difference, and people don't realize you can do that.
Yeah, I remember like I got to negotiate some kind of like medicine down that was like $8,000 I got a bill for, because I have advanced maternal age because of my age of my pregnancy. When my first was 35, and that's the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And then it was like I was 38, and then 39 turning 40 for my last pregnancy. So when you have that, and then you have a history of like infant loss, multiple miscarriages. Like if you have, I think it's 3 miscarriages, then you would start to be in this category where you get weekly visits to the doctor, constant like heart monitor rating when they like put it on your belly.
Yeah.
And you get that every single week you have to go. There was some kind of medicine that they had to give me. And when I called, they're like, oh, we can totally run it down to like, this would be like $800 instead of $8,000.
Was it the shot you had to get in your butt?
Yeah.
Progesterone. So I had to do that with
that's what it was.
My other 2 pregnancies.
And then next thing you know, bill never comes. It just got completely like, I didn't have to pay it at all.
Really?
It just disappeared.
Just disappeared?
Yeah.
Just went out into the ether?
Just gone. So I was like, okay. So I went from $8,000 to $1,300 to nothing. I'm like, okay, cool. And that was while I was on Medicaid. Then when I remember like, I can't remember which pregnancies I've had. 4 pregnancies right now. So like my 2nd and 4th resulted in healthy deliveries. My 1st and 3rd did not. So sometimes I can get confused of like where I was, but there was like, I remember I still had Medicaid. I was going to New York, Roosevelt. Oh, I delivered my first, so I switched hospitals. I think what happened was I started with that clinic. And then
it's a support group.
I met somebody who had like 8 miscarriages.
Oh.
And 2 successful.
Yeah.
But they were at the end. So she had gone through the 8, I think, first, and then it was like something like that. And so she had a doctor that she recommended, and so I ended up going to that doctor. I met that doctor one time, and literally the weekend, by the end of that weekend, my baby was. So when I see that doctor, she's like, what happened? Like, she was almost like, it felt like you ruined my stats. Does that mean kind of thing? Like, now I got a patient, that now I have this, and like I barely even like, oh my gosh, you know. And really, it was, I think it was like a result of a lot of like financial stress, just in general, like a lot of stress between everything going on. But I remember at New York Roosevelt, when we switched to that hospital, you had to wait 3 hours, but you got to wait in like, but I got to be seen by a doctor in like a real hospital room. So I was like, oh, this is an improvement from the clinic room.
Yeah.
Right. That was.
Was it just like an NP or something that was taking care of you?
No, they were always doctors, like their residents. And then this was like, you have an actual like head of like the OB department, and then the residents in there. But you're in an actual hospital waiting room. I'm not in like a weird library conference room. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not in this weird like an office space. Now I'm in like a medical. I'm like in a medical facility, and then I'm seeing like doctors in a hospital with a bed with like the paper, right, with like Q-tips and everything. Not like random binders in a dark room with books that are like in blankets and sheets and like. So I was like, oh, same amount of money. Do you know, it was the same care. Nothing had changed. It was just like I had selected the wrong place the first time. I should select something like this. Do you see what I'm saying?
That's awful.
Does that make sense?
I feel
this is what I'm learning,
all
right?
Those girls at that place
did not know. They didn't know. They have the same coverage. They could have you just picked the wrong place. It's like shopping at Goodwill, not knowing that you had the same Visa gift card. You could have gone to Nordstrom, but you didn't know. And so I'm like, oh, so then, but that was 3 hours. Like by the time I was really
how do people
the best one
out?
was New York Presbyterian, while Cornell's, they had an entire building that you go into. When I went in there with that kind of medical care, it was literally like 15-minute wait, and then went in, saw a real doctor, and then was in and out of there like normal. And then when that one, it was like all of a sudden we had insurance kick in at my last trimester. They're like, oh, now you have insurance. You can't come here anymore because this is for you got to find an OB. And I was like, oh my God. Luckily, all the female OBs in their residences were like, this is who we go to. And they gave me the name of the female OB that all the other female OBs go to in there. So I'm like, perfect. So I tried to go to her.
Yeah.
She unfortunately did not take patients in the last trimester. And so she was like, no, but somebody in my group does. And it was a man. So then I go, okay, so I made an appointment with him. On that Friday, I made an appointment with him. I'm supposed to see him on Monday. I end up going into labor on Saturday, go into the hospital on Saturday. And by the time the rotation happens, and who ends up being the doctor I wanted in the first place ends up being the doctor that delivers, because she's the one that's on call that day.
The universe aligned for you.
So I happened to have the exact doctor I wanted.
You're just pointing.
I was like, Dr. DeBray. Yeah, I was like, oh my God, that's so exactly. And the funny thing is, the reason why my husband picked this hospital is because he was traumatized by the first experience. So then this hospital he had looked up, this one had an endowment from Chanel. I think a $10, $11 million endowment for the maternity ward from Chanel. And also gave out push gifts that were Chanel push gifts. So it was like, oh, okay, this must be a good hospital. It's the fourth best hospital in the country. So peace of mind.
Yeah.
When you have like very little options, you still want the best for yourself. And then I learned that you need to research all the hospitals, all the different types of care. They're not all the same. It's not uniform, not only in the country, it's not uniform in the state, it's not even uniform in the greatest city in the world, New York City. Not even uniform there. So that taught me a great deal, even though I'd never been to a hospital before.
Well, I mean, when I was pregnant with my first son, and I had 2 health insurance, my cousin his partner was pregnant, and she was on Medicaid, and she had not a similar experience, but she had to stay on bed rest in the hospital as well. And when I was on bed rest, it was like I had 2 insurances, in-network, everything. I was in this tiny ass little room. I didn't even have a window to look outside.
Do you have a private room?
No, it was a shared room.
Yeah.
So it was like half a wall and then a curtain, and somebody was right over here.
Yeah.
Right, like on the other side, and then we had a shared bathroom kind of thing.
Yes, I remember that. And you can hear everything.
Yes.
It's just a curtain, right?
Yeah. It's just
and their visitors, you can hear them.
Yeah.
Talking, eating. And you're just acting like they're not there, but they're literally 2 centimeters from you.
Yes.
Whatever. I remember that. That was the first delivery.
Was like that?
I'm going to say yes. With my first delivery, I didn't know. They put you in a shared room, and I remember I'm a very light sleeper, and I could not sleep because they were so loud, and they had guests, and I remember.
Yeah.
So after that, we always set money aside into a private, like a fund that because you can always get a private room if you pay for it.
Yeah.
In New York City, I believe it was $2,700 a night, or total. Maybe total. Okay. No, I think it was total.
Okay.
So we always plan for 2 nights because they want you in there for 2 nights for a natural delivery, 3 nights for a C-section. Yeah. So hoping it was natural, it'd be 2 nights. We had saved enough money in a federal savings account.
Well, real quick, before I forget this thought, but my cousin's partner, she was on Medicaid, and she had complications.
Oh.
And her insurance put her in a hospital where she had it was a huge room. There was a separate cot for him, and there was a glass window that looked out.
Yes.
And it's just funny because with my insurance,
that tracks. That tracks my experience too.
I had a little 8-inch by 8-inch TV. I didn't see outside.
That absolutely
tracks. My
tracks.
partner slept on a reclining chair couch thing.
Yes.
It was not good.
I remember
That's
going,
so funny.
oh my God, when you have the most, Big Law, fully top tier healthcare, was the same care as when we had Medicaid, but when we were in the middle, we had the worst.
The worst.
Yeah,
right?
We paid the most. In terms of what you're getting not, but you're paying kind of a lot. You pay a lot more, but you're getting a lot more.
Yeah.
Or a lot more. Do you know what I'm saying? But even now, I have PPO now, and I find I cannot get an appointment for 2 to 3 months, or a lot of the offices are not set up for PPO, which I thought you just pay. Like, I didn't think it was I thought it was easiest. So I don't know what's going on now. It's gotten even harder, which means insurance companies have found another more broader way to deny coverage or to delay coverage.
So they can't.
But they're not, like, I'm not paying late, right? Like, we're paying on time. So it's, to me, it's a form of fraud for sure.
Yeah.
Whether or not we understand. It's just so integrated into, like, there's no way like healthcare insurance works without lobbying and having a very integrated, intimate, important relationship that has been locked down for like a very long time. That's why it seems like it's unbreakable. But the reality is, like, you know, you have conversations about healthcare now that are much different than, and it could be eradicated when you look at the rest of the world's models. You just take private health insurance out, and then everybody has like
so easy.
Yeah, it's basically like private health insurance. If you're thinking like a freeway, is like forcing everybody to pay a toll, and then knowing that, like, if you just didn't have to pay a toll, you could just go into the carpooling or the fast track lane. If you didn't have to pay the health, you just go like through Medicaid and Medicare, like that is like how it was, right? And you wouldn't have to wait as long. You wouldn't have to like worry about waiting and then dying while you're waiting, like all these other things like that, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing I remember also was interesting. So after I think it was my third. So because I thought we were gonna deliver, and then it was supposed to be a girl, we had a D&C. So trisommy 13 means that the baby is not going to have any vital organs that function at all, and they're not a candidate for surgery. They don't have developed lungs, don't have a developed esophagus. Their brain doesn't divide properly. Nothing's at all, nothing. And so for me, it was like, do I want her to possibly be brought to term, deliver her, and then she'll suffocate or starve to death? Or do I want to be able to like not have her suffer at all? And then also give myself time to reconsider and possibly have another baby. Yeah. Because if I had taken her to term and then done all that and the emotional weight of all that after having done the first stillbirth, like, I don't think I would have had another baby. I would have been like, no. So if you're a pro-lifer, you'd want me to have another baby more than you want me to not have. Like, in that case, if you're thinking pro-life, like, you'd want me to do that. So in the sense where for that situation, I remember we had that money still in the account. So then I was like, well, what do I do with this money? And my husband was like, why don't you just go to a therapist? Because then you might as well like use this money. And so that's when I was like, all right, let me go to a therapist and just talk about all the stuff, right? Yeah. It was interesting because the first loss, I remember there was a nurse that, it's part of the program, right? Like they have a follow-up checkup. Yeah. How are you doing mentally, all this stuff. And I remember telling this nurse, I was like, oh, I just decided that this baby was never meant to actually like be born to me, but he was sent to me to kind of teach me that instead of being like boss bitch corner office, you're gonna have a nanny if you're gonna have kids and just like work and just pay for everything, that like this baby taught me that I actually want to be a present mother. Yeah. And his mission was to come and teach me that, and that it was never to actually like be born and be that child. It was to be the child that was going to transform me into the mother that I should become if I'm going to be a good mother. And then the nurse was like, oh my God, I have never heard of a point of view like that, or like I've never heard anybody say that. Yeah. You don't need therapy. You're good. This is the healthiest perspective I've ever heard of any person that's ever had this experience. I was like, okay. But even the way she said that felt like kind of judgmental. And I was kind of like turned off by the way that she said that. I'm like, wow, I'm like teaching you something, but you're also teaching me something that you're not as compassionate as like you should be in this situation. And I did find that that happened on the day of my delivery.
Still, like, use some therapy. Like who?
You know what I mean? Yes.
Because it's a huge loss.
Yes, but that's also the timing of when I think society's mindset. This is still when it was taboo to talk about it. So it was kind of like
and I just can't even
kind of vibe.
Imagine that being taboo.
It was so taboo at that time. If you talked about it at all, everybody felt like you need to be like committed. Like if you continue to talk, it was like that vibe. Like coming out of that vibe, we're like, you shouldn't talk about that. I remember people definitely being like, hey, and I'm like, dude, I know what you mean, but like, that's messed up. And I was kind of like, that's crazy, you know? I'm like, I'm not the crazy one. You're crazy for telling me to not to just pretend like this didn't happen. Like, and I was like, I wonder if this is because, and I'm pro-choice, but I was like, I wonder if this is because we've had to like culturally also like get people to think of these things differently, detached, so that you can give a pro-choice perspective without, like in Japan, it's allowed, abortion is completely allowed and thought of differently. Like they think of it as understanding what it is and understanding why it has to be done in some cases,
Yeah.
and they're okay with it all. They also count gestational age differently than us. We count day 1, day 2, right? After you're born.
Mm-hmm.
They count when you're born, they say you're like 10 months old or 1 year old. Like they count the gestation like inside there. So under the way that we would think of that, you could not have those two things happening coincide
Then they would be
and
like,
have the moral thing going for it and allow that in legislation. But you can, because I've seen it. I lived it. And why was I in Japan? Because I was deployed there with my husband as a spouse for a 3-year military thing with the Marine Corps. Like I was there for a government thing, and this is how I learned this. And I'm like
you can do that.
well, it's just
I
thinking
also
of that
don't
things.
I don't think it's the like feminism pro-choice movement that kind of brushes off the
Not
miscarriage.
completely, but I think it had a way
I
of
think
informing,
yeah,
perhaps,
but
to where
I feel like it's more patriarchal. Like, well, that's what your job is. It's like you're a breeder. Like you're.
well, I also think it makes people uncomfortable,
you know,
and men don't want to be uncomfortable.
they're just like.
So if you can make
do it
women
again.
say, you know what, you should talk about that, then they don't have to sit with the discomfort of it either.
Yeah.
An entire society has never had to be sad or mourn all the losses that women have. Wow, how nice for you guys that you did not ever have to take on any of the emotional responsibility or weight of any of that. And not only that, you turned it on the women and made them feel bad for having feelings about it. Of course, what kind of psychopath would not have a fucking feeling about that?
Right. So that's why I feel like I'm like, I don't think they were probably like that before too. Like before abortion was a huge issue. To like just not talk about miscarriages.
I
and stuff.
mean, I just think.
I mean, I don't know. I never lived in like the 1940s, 50s, or 60s.
I mean, it went
don't
up for
know
so
how
long. There like had to be a
dealt with it.
movie, Return to Zero, Minnie Driver, Golden Globe nomination. Movie becomes a conversation about stillbirth for the first time ever. Never had nobody had ever discussed it. You don't talk about miscarriage, you're definitely not talking about stillbirth. Oh my God, that'd be very.
What movie?
Return to Zero.
Return to Zero.
That's what the movie was about. A family who had a stillborn baby, and it like changed their, what their journey in that whole thing. And the movie almost did not get fully completed because they ran out of money. And what they did was they came to, I called us the angel moms, the angel mom community, moms of babies that were in heaven but did not have any babies on earth. You're still a mother.
Yeah.
But it's hard on Mother's Day for those mothers. You understand? So those mothers showed up and helped finance that movie. So at the end of that movie, there's credits. And the credits are all in memoriam to all the babies. So their moms like donated whatever amount of money. And I think there was a certain threshold. There was like a GoFundMe, CrowdStarter, one of those Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I remember specifically, and like if you hit like a certain amount of money, your name or your baby, you could however you wanted to credit it, would be in there. And then you would see all the names of the babies. So I have friends in my that did that. So their babies are memorialized there. And that's how the movie got finished. So it was like such a community effort. Yeah. A lot of people don't know that. But that was literally the beginning of when we call it when the silence is broken. Now you can talk about it without being like shunned or being thought of like, oh, you need to go like get committed. You need we need to have an intervention. You need to send it. Like it's like that was the extreme level of like, and then it got better like shh. And then now it's like, okay, like you can talk about it. And now when men talk about it, Mark Zuckerberg talked about being a man and having to deal with miscarriage. And it like went viral, but it went in the news.
Yeah.
Like news articles were written about how like the male perspective and how like refreshing it was. And I was like, oh, to me it's like cultural appropriation. Oh, so it's okay when a man talks about it. But when a woman talks about it, it's crazy.
For the right just to talk about it.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
When men get maternity or paternity leave, oh, good for you. I remember my husband got emails when he took paternity leave at this firm that was like actually like #1 for mothers at the time. And they're like, thank you so much for taking paternity leave because when you take paternity leave, it makes it easier for me to take maternity leave. Think about it. Because then it normalizes
to do it.
and it makes it women.
I hate
Isn't
this.
that yeah? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
That's
Oh no, that made me
Women's
furious too.
healthcare.
Yes, that's what it is. Yes, so this is the prism of what we live in. So like fighting for men to have health care actually gets women health care. Fighting for men to have paternity leave gets us maternity leave. fighting for men to have bathrooms with changing stations gets women changing stations all the time. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
in America. I don't know if that's like the prism that we live in the world, but that's definitely the prism we live in America.
There is definitely a lot of...
Because like in Japan,
the propaganda is
companion
working
restroom in Japan,
in America.
full hospital situation. Like full hospital in there with like, there's 2 sinks, there's a full toilet, there's like, it looks like with the hospital curtain and everything, you're like, oh, this is like, and us?
No.
Oh my God, it's not even like clean.
No. You have a toilet.
And it's really frowned upon in Japan to use a companion restroom if you don't need it. Because we're talking, like, these are people that are bringing in kids that are like cerebral palsy. Like they need, and really, you're in there?
Taking a shit.
Right?
A shit
Being an American, basically. Not realizing, like,
you
my family's in here. Like, we're all capable of just using the other bathrooms. I'm so sorry. Like, did not, like, you start to realize, like, oh.
Does that ever happen to you? Like, when you're at Disneyland, that happens to me all the time. Like, I'll find a family restroom because I'll go with my kids.
Well, here it's culturally okay to do it.
Yeah, and there'll be just one dude in there taking a shit.
Yeah, totally.
Like,
that happens all the time.
Fuck? Go poop in the regular bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's not as bad as like, but in Japan they don't even like jaywalk there.
Yeah.
They like shake your hand if you're an American. You don't jaywalk.
Why use this restroom to poop when there's
Well, I mean, some people get stage fright.
Okay.
You don't want your bowels to get all infected and like bloated and gross. There's a woman apparently who like held in all her farts and like blasted her intestine. Got sick. Is that women's health care?
Why? Yeah. It's okay to fart, ladies.
It's okay.
It's my tip for women's healthcare for the day.
lighthearted women's healthcare topic for today. It's okay to fart, ladies. Don't hold it in to get your
fart.
and then burst yourself.
Oh, gosh.
Yep. If you hold in your sneezes, you can blow out your esophagus. Somebody did that once. If you always hold in your sneezes one day, too much pressure,
and you just
popped a hole in your So same
and
thing.
that's men's healthcare. No,
That's
just
men's
kidding.
health.
Well, let us know what some of your experiences with healthcare are, good or bad.
Yeah, because honestly, this is a conversation where we can start advocating for like a more uniform healthcare for women in general.
Yeah.
There should be women's healthcare is the least funded, least studied, and I find that to be very irritating because all of us came out of
through the lens of a man,
a woman.
Well, yeah, all of us came out of, but healthcare is built by the lens through a man.
Yeah.
So, like, we need to advocate for ourselves, ladies.
Yeah. So share some stories with us that we can bring to the public and kind of inform, and then see maybe we can. Kind of like when you share salary stories, you learn where we should all be getting paid. We should learn what the healthcare stories are out there, so we can figure out how to get a more uniform and equitable healthcare for everybody, like from every state, no matter, if you're like in Alabama or in Arkansas, Wisconsin, Ohio, or if you're in New York City or California or Hawaii, wherever,
Yeah.
And that maybe if we could ultimately get it to the same level as Australia or Canada.
That would be the dream.
That would be the dream.
That would be the dream. Paid maternity leave.
Okay.
Instead of $5,000. But be sure to follow us on YouTube and Instagram at Are We The Only Ones? Or if you're not on social media, feel free to email us at arewetheonlyones@gmail.com. Until next time.
Thanks.
Bye.